Back when I was in university, I had a summer job working at a government-funded research lab. We were actually doing work on HIV. So actually, when it comes to viruses and pandemics, I'm kind of an expert. Well, that would be true if they actually had me working on some of the real experiments and stuff. But as it turns out, I was just working on all these side projects, so I basically know nothing about viruses other than you're supposed to wash your hands. So I think we all know that by now. But I remember this particular department, they had been given some grant money to hire summer students. And so they hired me. And they didn't really know what to do with me. So again, they gave me all these little things on the side. It kind of felt like busy work, to be honest with you. And I was there, working away. I saw other people at the office, in the labs, collaborating together. And I was like the odd guy out. Or, we'd take lots of coffee breaks or lunch breaks or whatever, and I'd be sitting there, and inevitably, we'd be eating chocolate chip cookies and talking about somebody's cats. And I just couldn't relate, and I always kind of felt like I didn't quite fit in. And as we were having these conversations, kind of superficial or whatever, I experienced that summer a deep loneliness. Now, what started to happen as the weeks went by is I even withdrew a bit. I started to isolate myself. And when lunch would come around, I'd actually get away. I might use the time to go exercise, or I even went to Mass during the lunch hour so as not to necessarily spend time with the folks I was working with. And I remember that experience so profoundly, that sense of loneliness, even though I was around people. I suspect I might not be the only person. Is there anyone else out there who has ever experienced loneliness at some point in your life? I've certainly, as I said, in different seasons, I've experienced that feeling of being alone, being isolated. And I think right now, in this time of pandemic, it's just magnified even more. I mean, some of you literally live alone. And because of the restrictions on us, you might feel even more disconnected from the rest of society. Even for others, you live at the same address as other people, you're under the same roof, and yet there can be moments of feeling a deep loneliness. Does anyone else get me? Does anyone else understand the struggles that I'm going through? Does anyone know what this feels like? And we can come to this point of resignation, of saying, you know what? I just gotta power through by myself. I've got to figure this out on my own. And the thing is, in Western society, this individualization, it's recognized, it's even celebrated in a particular way. That tough, self-made woman or man who's able to do it by themselves. Don't depend on others. Don't be weak. Be the author of your own destiny. I mean, we can try to go solo for a while. In my case, I made it this summer through the summer job. We can go a couple of months, but eventually loneliness will catch up because we were made for relationships. And if we enter into this deep place of loneliness, the problem, as we're cut off from people, is we become more vulnerable to other kinds of temptations as well. This is why the Christian message is so key. That we don't have to be these uniquely gifted superheroes who can conquer the enemy of loneliness single-handedly. Jesus himself, from the very beginning, what did he do? He gathered this community of followers together. These 12. He taught them how to love each other, as if to say, listen, in my kingdom, independence is not going to be the most valuable thing. Interdependence, when we can learn to depend and support one another, That's going to be the thing that is most sustainable in my kingdom. And Jesus, after establishing this first group of 12, teaching them how to love each other, they went on to establish other communities of believers all over the world who would also continue to support one another. And in our second reading today, as Paul's writing this letter to the Philippians, he is writing to one of these communities that was established maybe about 10 years prior to the writing of this letter in this place called Philippi, modern-day Greece, where, so often the case is Paul, he's writing these letters to different places in the New Testament, and often it feels like he's laying the smack down. There's some kind of a needed correction that he's making. But in this case, in his letter to the Philippians, there's this really personal tone. He's speaking to them. You get the sense he really loves them, and he's affirming them, encouraging them for how far they have come. And he's trying to say, there's more. I'm calling you, I'm appealing to you to go deeper. It begins with these 4 conditional statements. In the original Greek, I think the word if is used 4 times in a row. If there's any encouragement in Christ. If there's any consolation from love. If there's any sharing in the Spirit. If there's any compassion and sympathy. As if to say, if you've experienced encouragement in any way, if you've experienced consolation from your relationship with Jesus, if you have experienced compassion, sympathy, tenderness, that feeling of being understood and cared for. If you've experienced any of these things, Paul says, make my joy complete. You've come so far, bring it to fulfillment. Be of one mind and one heart, one accord. Be united. That's his core message. He's calling them to be united as a community. One mind, one heart. Be the kind of community that connects together in love. Be the sort of community that grows together in faith. Be the sort of people who pray together and for each other. That's what Paul is describing, this kind of community. This authentic community that done well, there's no room for loneliness. There's no room for isolation. We won't leave people behind. Everyone can belong. Everyone can feel loved. That's what Paul is calling them to. He goes on to say, don't even let the tiniest bit of selfish ambition get in the way. Don't be conceited. Instead, I want you to lead with humility. In fact, put the interests of others before yourself. If you live that kind of community, it's going to be life-changing for you. I think of one simple example of that. When I first got here to St. Benedict about 5 years ago, Father James, the previous pastor, was here and I was working with him. And sometimes, this was very rare, but sometimes there'd be a little bit of tension between the two of us. And I remember he always took the initiative. He would pull me aside and say, hey, Simon, let's sit down and talk. And he'd want to work through it. Because he was saying, we can't allow even the tiniest crack to form. That's where the enemy gets in and divides people and comes between relationships. What we're doing is so critical. We've got to fight for unity. We've got to fight to be of one mind and one heart. It's the same kind of unity that Paul is describing today, this authentic community. And you know what? It's hard, but I realized I crave that. That's what I've always longed for. Not that kind of community that I experienced in that summer job, It's all about cookies and cats. We'd talk about cookies and we'd eat cats. No, just kidding. Just seeing if you're paying attention, we would eat cookies and talk about cats. But the point is this. Seriously, in this world, there are so few places we can go to experience this level of real community, this kind of interdependence. This is what I'm talking about. And I just want to summarize it simply so we can remember. It's community that is rooted in Christ. friendships that are rooted in faith. I'm going to say that again. If you want, you can type it in the comments. Community rooted in Christ, friendships rooted in faith. That brings it to another level that adds a certain character that just doesn't exist without Jesus. You know, I feel so blessed. Throughout my life, I've had the chance to experience this kind of community in so many different ways, right from the beginning. In my family made Christ the center, and that did something to our family. And I remember as a kid, my parents, they joined this small Christian community. There were 3 families. We'd get together every 2 weeks, and we'd have potlucks, and the parents would share more intimately, the kids would play, but I remember that was normal for us. When I was a teenager, I remember the youth group and being part of that and experiencing, even then, I could see it, this parallel track of friendships. My friends in high school and my friends at church. And just realizing that this particular kind of friend group, there was something different. There was something a little bit more in those relationships. It was more real. And then in university, I went looking for it. I tried to find friends, and I made friendships with Catholics and Christians, and they were such a support to me. I mean, I just think during university, it's a time when so many people experience chaos, where there's so much confusion. And yet I had these friendships who kept me rooted in faith. And then when I felt called to the priesthood, you know, my number one fear in pursuing a call to the priesthood was loneliness. And so that's why I turned to this community, the Companions of the Cross, because I desired and I knew that I needed this interdependence, this sense of brotherhood, friends who would support me on this journey. And when I look back on my life, through some of the darkest seasons, some of the moments where I've been most afraid and been tempted to believe that I'm all alone, it's been these communities that I've leaned into, these spiritual friendships that have grounded me and helped me to continue forward. It's been the people for whom we have our common denominator is Jesus. That's what has kept me going. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this. If it were not for this kind of community, I wouldn't still be a priest today. This has been a life-changing reality for me. I'm so grateful for the difference it's made. And this is not just something for priests, by the way. It's not just something that only super holy people need. At St. Benedict Parish, we want everyone to experience the gift of these kinds of friendships that are rooted in faith. This is meant for everyone. This can change your life, to experience authentic community, to realize you're not alone. Over the years here at St. Benedict, we've had different versions of these, and I want to acknowledge all those who have been participating over the years and just affirm your efforts. There's been things called pastorates and things called connect groups and things called discipleship groups, and all of those things are beautiful. Today, we brought it all under one umbrella. We call them life groups, and I was pleasantly shocked to discover that today there are about 600 people in St. Benedict life groups. I just think it's amazing. It's so beautiful. Our parish is made up of two main realities. Our large gatherings, so what we do, coming together as we are right now, gathering for Sunday worship, and these smaller gatherings, these small communities, what we're calling life groups. Both are needed. Ordinarily, the large gatherings, the Sunday worship, we gather together in rows to worship God. But these small groups, these life groups, gather in circles. And again, both are needed. There's certain things we can do really well in a large group, but there's many things that we can only experience in the context of a smaller group, where there's a little more time, a little more flexibility, and the opportunity for for deeper intimacy. The purpose of life groups here at St. Benedict is this: to help each other become mature disciples in Christ. To help each other become mature disciples in Christ. If Alpha is the place where we might start the journey, life groups can be the place where we continue and grow deeper. And at this time, I just want to share with you a couple of quick stories from parishioners who have joined life groups. One from a family and another from a young adult, both of whom have experienced the difference that life groups have made.
Hi, my name is Megan, and I've been hosting a life group for about 8 months now. I first decided to join a life group because I was really looking for a way to continue building my faith while being in community with other people around my age after Alpha had finished. And I'm super happy that I began that journey of participating in a life group because through those meetings, I've not only been able to explore my faith more, but it also helped me to build community with those I already knew from Alpha and some new faces too. I absolutely love the people in my life group, and I'm so thankful that I get to meet with them every couple of weeks. It is truly amazing, especially during this time of social distancing and not having as many social interactions that we'd normally be used to still be able to meet with people from the life group in our faith community, whether that be online or in smaller groups. The group has allowed me to dive deeper into the homilies with the great questions that are supplied by St. Benedict, and it helps me to be more attentive to God's message through those words. Hosting a life group has allowed me to develop my leadership skills and answer God's call to help others grow in their faith as well. I would definitely recommend life groups to anyone who's wanting to dive deeper into their faith and make some awesome connections with others in the process.
Hi everyone, this is the family of Macaulay Okoro. So we participated in the life group, which is anchored by Jackie. It was an amazing experience for us, an opportunity for us to gather together and to enhance our spiritual growth, especially in the time of the pandemic. We could all pray together, express ourselves, and present our prayer requests. And also during the summer, we could all gather together with families and other friends to have fun. So we highly recommend this life group for all the parishioners of St. Benedict Parish and other friends that are outside Canada to join so as to enhance your spiritual growth. Thank you very much.
So what's next? What's next for you? Life groups. If you're part of the 600 people who are already in a life group, I hope that you'll keep at it. I hope that you have already started to experience the difference that is made when we start to form this bond as friends rooted in faith. For some of you, maybe you were part of a previous iteration, a pastorate or a connect group or a discipleship group, and maybe it was good for a season, or perhaps it wasn't that good, or something was missing. Well, I want you to consider trying a life group now. Or for those of you who have never experienced any of this before, it's all new, this is your moment. This is something that we all need. And by the way, this is for anyone. If you're living in the local Halifax area, great. If you're living on the other side of the world, we already have life groups that are global, international, and so you're welcome. If you have nowhere else to turn, if you're craving this kind of personal friendship with other Christians, you're most welcome to join us here at St. Benedict to join a life group. This fall, we're doing what we're calling a life group campaign. Think of that image of going to war. Well, we're going to go to war. We're going to battle the enemies of loneliness and isolation. And if you want to participate, just go to our website, saintbenedict.ca/lifegroups. All the information will be there. You can register. It's totally free. What we're going to do is just this trial, this experiment for 7 weeks this fall. If you want to join us, we're going to give you the videos and a few questions. You can get together with a couple of friends and and just watch the video, talk about the questions. It'll take maybe about an hour, depending how chatty you are. And that's all it is. Really, it's a 7-hour commitment this fall. And I hope that what you might realize as you just try this out, you might realize, man, I'm forming relationships with people in a way that I've been longing for. Maybe in a way that you didn't even realize how badly you needed this. I'm going to end with a story. My parents, both from India, and about 5 years ago, Dad and I, we made a trip to India, this whirlwind trip. We traveled all over, and we actually made a side trip to Calcutta. And we spent a day volunteering at the very first home for the dying that Mother Teresa had established. It was a powerful experience, and actually to see the authentic community right there among total strangers was so profound. Now, Mother Teresa, she's traveled all over the world. She's seen the worst of society. She recognized that there is a pandemic of poverty. One of her shocking revelations was that the greatest poverty of all is not material. She said, the most terrible poverty is loneliness and the feeling of being unloved. At St. Benedict's Parish, we believe that God is offering a solution to this poverty of loneliness. That life groups, they're not my idea, they're God's idea. That God has this plan to draw us in together, that we could form these deep friendships rooted in faith. At St. Benedict, we might be recognized for our large groups, our Sunday worship, but our strength is in our life.